Let me formally thank Rachel. I call her the inimitable Rachel Snyder for putting together the video we just saw. She makes a professional presentation look easy, but I can tell you she spent many hours putting this together as well as putting up with all of us as well. Let me also thank the ever ubiquitous Carson City Chamber of Commerce for once again sponsoring our State of the City address, in addition to all the other things the Chamber does. This year's Silver and Snowflakes event that lit up the city was simply wonderful. I was at a function the other night where a couple who had moved here just a short time ago remarked to me how impressed they were with that event in our downtown. Chamber of Commerce, well done to all of you. And last but not least, and certainly not least, let me thank you, the citizens of Carson City, for making last year a tremendous success in any number of ways. We live in a community where its residents are committed to making the city we call home a shining example of what communities can do to make life better for all of us. So today I'm proud to report to you that the state of our city is healthy and fiscally sound. When I first became mayor, our country and our communities, including Carson City, were sliding into what many have called the Great Recession. Our unemployment rate in Carson City hit 15% or more, with more than 3,000 wage earners out of work. It was and is not lost on me that our unemployment is not just a percentage. For every wage earner out of work, there is the face of a person or a family struggling to get by. Today, nearly 24,000 residents have jobs, a number not seen since 2010, and fewer than 1,000 wage earners are looking for work. We haven't seen that number, ladies and gentlemen, for 11 years, but none of us should rest until every resident who wants a job has one. The demands on our workforce and workforce training are increasing daily, so that someday we may be able to report that every wage earner in our community has a stable employment. Through the active collaboration effort by the city, our school district, Western Nevada College, the Northern Nevada Development Authority, JOIN, and others, including our business and manufacturing community, we are showing progress every day in workforce training, job procurement, and indeed economic development in general. And ladies and gentlemen, how about the high school's graduation rate? 92.3%. Huh? It doesn't get much better than that. Well done to you folks, Superintendent Stokes. Well done. As families must live within their means, so must local government. In addition to balancing the budget, we have set aside money every year in our rainy day fund. During my first term as mayor, we were only able to set aside about 5% of our annual expenses in that rainy day fund. Together with the Board of Supervisors, we have made sound fiscal management a guiding principle that has shown amazing results. The growth in revenue has far outpaced the growth in expenditures, and I'm proud to report to you today that at the beginning of the state's fiscal year, we now have nearly 15% of our annual expenditures saved in our rainy day fund. Like many other communities, our bond rating dropped a tick during the recession. We should now be able to regain not only what we lost, but improve beyond where we were during the economic boom of the last decade. Bond ratings, as we all know, are critical to the success of a community because, among other things, they have the effect of reducing debt-related costs. It also goes without saying that a healthy ending fund balance, or savings account if you will help weather future economic downturns should they occur, and if history is any prediction, they probably will. For this year, sales tax revenues are running about 10% over the prior period last year. About 2/3 of economic activity, and it's no different in Carson City. Nationally, consumer spending accounts for about 2/3 of economic activity, and it's no different in Carson City. We've seen a strong, broad-based economic recovery reflected in consumer spending as both employment and wages trend upwards. In 2010, taxable sales had declined to $678 million. This past fiscal year, the Carson City economy had its best year ever, and exceeded $1 billion in taxable sales for only the second time in our city's history. If this trend continues, we may well end up with $2.1 million in additional revenue for this year, some of which will go into the rainy day fund or savings account, and some we'll use to address for capital reinvestment. Speaking of capital reinvestment, we have also taken steps to address the deferred maintenance we sustained during the recession. Last year, as you saw in the video, we issued $3.8 million in 10-year bonds and contributed another $2.5 million from the general fund for our capital asset and improvement fund. These are, of course, good things. We have steadily drawn down our capital requirements, funding new ambulances, fire engines, sheriff patrol vehicles, and things of the like. Our board has made managing our assets for the long term a priority. Road maintenance remains a thorny problem. As with many communities and indeed the federal government, our road maintenance is funded through a local tax on gasoline sales. There is no local tax in our city on diesel fuel sales. With the advent of electric and more fuel-efficient vehicles, our revenue from fuel taxes are insufficient to properly maintain our roads. Our Transportation Resource Advisory Forum has been looking at this issue carefully and to try and find ways to ameliorate, if possible, the degradation of our local roads and highways as we go through life. On the redevelopment side, with the advice of our Redevelopment Citizens Committee, the Redevelopment Authority has distributed some $158,000 in building facade improvement funds. That infrastructure help resulted in more than $192,000 in private investments for a total of more than $350,000 in downtown building improvements. That program will continue in 2018. Our downtown continues to improve with more businesses moving into our vacant buildings. We will soon see the opening of the 308 Curry Building, a 3-story historically themed mixed-use project being built by the Hop and May Adams Foundation. You saw and heard the city manager talk from the top of that building during the video. I am told that nearly all of its space has been spoken for. I'm also told that the foundation's next project will focus on building additional living units in downtown Carson City. On that note, I will report that there have been several developers looking to develop living units in our downtown area, all of which adds to the economic vibrancy of not just our downtown, but our entire community. Although our residential construction is still somewhat short of pre-recession levels, we are growing at a sustainable pace in both residential and commercial development. We expect to see continued growth this coming year, as there are several residential projects queued up to commence in 2018, including Lomper Ranch. An area where we need help, however, is in the workforce and affordable housing. The Nevada Rural Housing Authority recently found a substantial need through a study for additional affordable housing units, including affordable apartments. To a large degree, our efforts at workforce development depend on our community's ability to offer affordable housing. And speaking of housing, as you heard from our board members on the video, there is also a growing need for transitional housing in our community where individuals can reside in a healthy and secure environment while embracing a positive lifestyle and where recidivism is reduced. We will also continue to work to make our downtown extended stay motels more livable and appealing. Also in the area of housing, Richards Crossing is full and doing well. Lori's shaking her head here, and yes, I think 9 units are being occupied right now by disadvantaged veterans. 19, see? 19 units being occupied by disadvantaged veterans. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a true statement of what a community can do with its nonprofits and for-profit folks and just the residents of Carson City building such a tremendous facility in our area. As you also saw in the video, this year we will continue with infrastructure improvements in our downtown area with the upgrading of Curry Street between Robinson and Musser. We will also continue with the development of a complete street design for South Carson Street from Fairview to the Highway 580 interchange, and hopefully with the benefit of an improved grant from the United States Department of Transportation, knock on wood, from 5th Street to Fairview. Also in the area of public works, and indeed elsewhere, we will continue to look for cost-effective ways such as our recent energy savings performance contract to lower our energy consumption and reduce our community carbon footprint. As I mentioned in last year's State of the City address, that contract ran about $4 million for building improvements and is completely paid for by guaranteed savings. Completely paid for by guaranteed savings that are guaranteed energy savings. 2017 was an eventful year for the Parks Department, as you saw. The flooding of our local rivers and streams significantly impacted our parks, trails, and sports complexes. Today, Moffett Open Space Route 6, the Long Ranch, and the Mexican Ditch Trails, together with most of the Riverview Park trails along the Carson River, have been indeed repaired and reopened. All repairs have been made to our sports complexes, such as they will be ready for the upcoming spring sporting events. We will continue to work this year on other damaged areas with the help of FEMA funds. Some of the priorities that remain are the Ash Canyon Road and Upper Kings Canyon. This year, we should also see the opening of our first ever disc golf course. This course started with the committed input of our local disc golf enthusiasts and who will also help maintain the course. I have to say, probably along with some of you in the room here, I really did not know much about disc golf. Didn't even know it was a sport. But from what I have read and heard, it is a growing sport with regional and national recognition. Thanks to our local citizens, we are on the forefront of this emerging sport. A new 3-acre park in the Schultz Ranch development is scheduled to open this year. In this park will feature a basketball court, walking path, and the city's first universally accessible playground for all ages and abilities. And as Supervisor Bagwell noted in the video, we will be renovating and upgrading and continuing work on Roscoe Park, and as well as upgrading all of our parks in our community, of which there are some 30 or more in our community. This past year, we also saw the dedication of a wonderful art piece that was on the video, Inside the Mind of Da Vinci. This display embodies the artistic and cultural talent by the many artists in our community, as well as the efforts of our Arts and Culture Director, Mark Salinas. Mark has been a wonderful addition to our community, and I want to especially thank Supervisor Abowd for the vision of what this position could really accomplish. Art and culture are integral parts of creating a community with an unparalleled quality of life. In a very real sense, they are the glue that bonds quality of life. And speaking of the bonds that hold a community together, our library will open shortly with a new floor and other renovations. The library has done a great job of keeping the library services going through all this renovation. To the library, well done, and to the library board and the friends of the library, well done. I've learned over the years that successful communities are those where there are no silos. Successful communities are those based on the concept of one community, where each of our demographic, ethnic, and economic sectors work in concert to raise the quality of life for all of us. Communities where mutual respect abides for all of our fellow travelers in this wonderful world and nation we call home. To that end, let me spend a moment talking about our senior center. With economic diversification going on in Northern Nevada and the commensurate changing dynamics of our business and workforce, we are seeing an influx into our community of younger individuals and families. That is a good thing and something we should embrace, as it is a key to our community's long-term sustainability for all of us. With that said, we need to remember that we have a sizable senior population in our community, and it is important that we have an infrastructure in place that provides our seniors with a safe and healthy environment in which to live and enjoy life. Thanks to the foresight of our residents, Carson City long ago passed a tax to support the creation and operation of the senior center. That was an extremely prescient effort, as the senior center has been the hub in our community for our seniors. It continues to be that hub today, and I believe it should and will continue in the future. However, it is starting to outgrow its ability to care for those in need. This past year, the Senior Center provided some 123,577 meals, with nearly 80,000 serving our most vulnerable Meals on Wheels recipients. My message to you in part today is if you are interested in volunteering or making a charitable contribution to the Senior Center, now would be a good time to do that. My fellow Carsonites, let me close by reiterating what we all know. We are fortunate to live in one of the most beautiful cities in America. Our boundaries extend from the shores of the eighth wonder of the world, Lake Tahoe, on the west to the high desert on the east. We have over 11 square miles of open space and some 30 local parks, all of which are laced with walkable and bikeable trails. We are the only state capital I know of where in one moment you can be in the heart of Nevada's political environment with all the hubbub of urban life, and in the next moment on top of a mountain or sitting under the flag on Sea Hill where you can enjoy hearing only the sound of nature. We are rapidly becoming the go-to place in northern Nevada with our outdoor music, restaurants, first-class sports and swimming venues, landscaped and walkable downtown, and the inviting McFadden Plaza, to name a few of our amenities. And I've talked to some of the real estate brokers here who say, you know, for the first time in the history of Carson City, we're seeing people we're seeing Reno residents move to Carson City or want to move here to buy a home here in Carson City because they're a little bit, you know, they want the lifestyle that Carson City has to offer. I could, of course, go on, but my message to you is that our unparalleled quality of life, our collective sense of place, exists as a result of you in this room, you listening, and all of our community, and all of the people in our community, with the pride you have in calling Carson City our home. We are not just a collection of neighborhoods, but indeed one community. Let me touch on just a couple of the many examples of what that statement means. The other night at the joint school board meeting, I mentioned the plight of a mother, one of our Circles graduates, and her then 11-year-old son. He had dropped out of school and ceased going to the Boys and Girls Club. He was being bullied in school and was rapidly in danger of making some terrible choices in life. Beside himself, his mother called her Circles ally, who in turn contacted the sheriff, who was in turn a Circles board member. And here's the interesting part. Within 24 hours, the school principal, our school superintendent, our school resource officer, the juvenile authorities, the Boys and Girls Club representatives, and our local health department all saw to it that this boy was back in school and back with the Boys and Girls Club. Indeed, he was even armed with the sheriff's personal cell phone number. To this day, his school resource officer, Jared Adams, routinely checks in on this young man. Where else but Carson City would you find all those resources coming to the aid of one 11-year-old child and his mother within 24 hours? Or, for another example, take Randy Gaw and Muscle Powered. This past year, Randy and Muscle Powered led efforts to replace the bikes for people who needed them as their only source of transportation, started a GoFundMe page for the Parks Department Movers and Doers program, led the effort to help staff the library's pedal library, cleared numerous trails around the city and region, started the Meals on Two Wheels program to help our existing program provide meals and companionship to homebound seniors, and greatly assisted Muscle Powered in being named a finalist in the governor's 2017 Points of Light program. All that in just this past year. And yes, Randy, as many of you, just has a day job too. For Randy, you are what makes Carson City a great place to live. You're also one heck of a Marine. And although the city manager thinks you need a shave, don't worry, that Marine reports to the Navy. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the honor of serving as your mayor of the greatest city of Nevada and indeed our nation. We live in a wonderful community. We are indeed one community. I couldn't be more proud to be here. I couldn't be more proud to serve with my fellow board members and just to be a Carsonite. You make me proud. Thank you.